Welcome back to Maximum News. Happy Thanksgiving to all the people out there. I know this is released, 3 or 4 days after American Thanksgiving, but I wanted to wish it to you guys anyways. And I bring it up also because Syb, who's my co-host who does all these shows with me. Hello, Syb.
Hello.
You know what people aren't doing when they're busy giving thanks? They're not making news.
Yeah. This is always the one of the driest news times right now. There's basically a revolution starting and a bunch of other things going on. Barely a word. Like international. Everybody's like, why would we need to be covering one of these major events in history? I don't know. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's just so weird. The news just completely dies off.
I meant gaming news. Obviously, there's much more important stuff happening in Iran and, the Ukrainian and Russia conflict and all the stuff that's always happening.
China's facing its own revolution. This started this week, too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out.
Revolutions for everybody. It's like Oprah getting out her cars. You get a revolution. You get a revolution. Except at the moment, there's nothing of the sort going on in gaming, which... compared to everything else, isn't as important, but it's stuff that, is important to us. It's fun to talk about and, just so we're not brooding all the time. There are a few stories. It's going to be a shorter show, if you probably haven't been able to tell by the time code. But we're going to talk about just a few things and then, I don't know, maybe go eat some leftover turkey, even though we're not American, we're Canadian. I'm going to start with probably what is the biggest gaming news story that happened this past week, and it's actually the only one that I was tasked with researching. Syb's going to take the lead on everything else.
It's also vaguely familiar.
Yes. Well, wait, what? What are you trying to suggest?
Well, so GameStop has. Was it Walmart or was it GameStop that screwed up?
Sorry. I thought
those announcements.
I thought you were trying to suggest that you were the one that's always doing the work around here.
Oh, no. You and Ash do way more work than I do.
Okay.
It's crazy. I'm out doing other job stuff most of the time.
Yeah. But, Syb does way more important stuff than I do. That's just an objective fact, and I say that sincerely. But yeah, GameStop, they've luckily for them, they've been able to stick around because they, like AMC, sort of became a meme stock in the last 4 years, even though their business model hasn't really been sustainable and continues to be unsustainable, and they don't really seem to be doing anything to change that. They just seem to be riding on the coattails of the meme stock craze. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that, and the latest piece of evidence just came out this past week. Apparently, they're not using any of the money they got from their investors to support their digital infrastructure. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it turns out that there was a glitch with GameStop's website this past week where, and I hope I'm pretty sure it's fixed now, but what happened was people who logged into their GameStop account, when you log in, you put in your name, your birthday, your password, and then when you go on there, if you made digital purchases, you could see your purchase history. If you want to buy a game online and have it shipped to your house, you put in your credit card information, that sort of thing. Well, it seems that GameStop's website server had a glitch, and people were, when they go into their profile page where all that personal information is listed out, it wasn't listing their information. It was listing other people's information.
Yeah.
Name, date of birth, all that basic stuff, but also credit card information. Yeah, so when you would refresh your profile, where it would normally show your credit card and your 3-digit security code, it would show somebody else's. And apparently it was so bad that there were some people who got this glitch that they would refresh and they would get 5 different credit cards before they were able to get their own or change their own. And, when people heard about this, naturally what they would try to do is they would try to go in and, delete their credit card information so nobody would accidentally come across it, or maybe delete their account entirely. But seemed like a decent amount of damage was done. Now, we don't know what the extent of the damage is. I don't think GameStop has made an official statement on this matter. But, it's Saib, I don't know why I'm surprised by this. It's not like this hasn't happened in the past. What I think Fallout 76 with the launch with that had a similar problem. Am I missing anything here? Did I get everything correctly?
Yeah, well, I mean, so Walmart and
Oh
EG
yeah,
Games in Canada, they've had these kind of breaches a number of times before. Not always. It's never exactly the same one. It's always like something weird or different, and that's the sad reality is that a lot of this just boils down to it's just technical problems that
Hmm.
if you're not on top of causes some serious problems and causes massive damage to your
Company, your
customer
credibility,
base
your customer
and your
base. Yeah.
credibility and your and those are two things that you just can't get back once you lose them. Like if you drop the ball on those things, you're not like poofed, but it's not good. And it's this sense that some people just can't, for some reason, corporations, big companies, they just can't seem to like make this stuff right when they need to, and that's hugely not good. Like that,
Yeah.
that is very much not good. So again, we have this here, and we're probably going to end up having this again, and in a few years, we're going to be hearing about another thing. But GameStop is one of these things where it's like they had such a big opportunity to do so much good and to really like push the avenue of what was like what they could have done. And instead what you got is this like just like idiots who don't know what they're doing. It feels like that's what's going on again, and it's like how are we at this again where it's just a bunch of people running these corporations that have no idea what they're doing. They don't have like foresight or the like an idea of like what to do or where to go or anything like that. It's just like nope, no, they're just going to sit on this stuff until they completely fall apart. It's
Mhm.
like that sucks. It sucks for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the problem. That's the thing. That's what needs to be fixed here is they need to start addressing this and making it better. But I honestly don't know if we'll ever see that.
I mean, they haven't really been doing anything for the last several years. Plus, they haven't really had to. They haven't had they haven't really hired anybody that had
Mm-hmm.
like any optimism that GameStop's business model was going to continue. It's just a matter of how long the memesters are willing to keep them in business, I suppose. At this point, they're like the undead hollows in Dark Souls that are just awaiting the end of the world. They're just sitting around waiting for the Age of Fire to end, and if anybody comes up to them and challenges them, they'll just lash out wildly at any constructive criticism. All right, yeah, just be careful if you happen to be in America and you have a GameStop account. If somehow you didn't already know this, now you know. Please take proper precautions, and hopefully everything gets sorted out. All right, moving on to item number 2. No, we're going to skip that one. Let's move on to next one. Destiny Sword. What? So, what does it have to do with mental health?
So it's a game where you control a squad of soldiers and they go out on missions, and it's a turn-based tactical kind of shooter. It's not this is not a triple A game. It's not a double A game. I wouldn't even really call it a single A game. It's a concept game made by an indie studio. But it's very interesting. I have it. I play it from time to time. I was looking at it, and the story kind of like was interesting because it was having a conversation on Twitter where people were like, what's the difference between games that are, why aren't more games, why aren't there more girls in high like rating, gameplay
Mm-hmm.
competition like esports and stuff like that? And the answer to that is most of the games that are out there today are not made for women. They actually, a lot of them put women at a significant disadvantage because they're just made differently. They're just made for different things. It's uh, the Twitch-based shooter is not made for most people. It's made for a small fraction of men and teenage boys who are exceptionally good at Twitch-based shooting.
Unless it's
And
Overwatch, which actually does have a pretty decent female
yeah,
population.
but that's because they've started to add different characters and different abilities and different things like that. It's
exactly.
You could, and there are ways to like increase this. And this is one of these games where it's a really great example of a company that's doing this. Of a game that's doing this right. Obviously, the company as well. And what it focuses on is what you would have in a lot of scenarios, and that is you have soldiers going off into a battle, and then they come back and they have issues that they're dealing with. They see their friends get hurt or die or whatever, and that's what half of the game revolves around. So half of it's your units in the field doing stuff, and then the other half is them talking to a counselor about the issues that they're going through. And that to me is just it's such an interesting new concept, and it really is pushing a new kind of like a new aspect of gaming. Not to say that it in and of itself isn't an amazing like singular piece of work, but it's showing that if you really want to make things different, you can. You don't have to get stuck to the same old.
Yeah.
You can actually do things that are different, and that's not a bad thing. So yeah, I think this is a great example of a game that's different, but in a good way. And I think, and I wish that people would, look into doing more of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
there's
so many different ways that video games can add a new interactive element. It's just a matter of it's hard because when it comes to video games, especially nowadays, unfortunately, the games that are the most popular are just sort of the ones that can deliver the greatest dopamine hit. Although, there's a certain contingent of gamers that do appreciate the indie scene and, the slower story-based games. But unfortunately, the way things are, nonetheless, it makes it difficult for experimental games like this to happen. So they deserve all our support. And I think in regards to something like this, Syb, you and I are all about mental health, and you and I clearly see the potential that video games have in order to increase not only awareness, but empathy for different neurodivergent communities and people that suffer with mental illness. This is a great example of something that could sort of be added on top of the small but growing pile of games that deal with that sort of stuff, like Celeste, Hellblade, Amori, which I finished recently and highly recommend, Spec Ops: The Line, speaking of PTSD. Yeah, so hopefully, do we know what Destiny Sword, what type of, will it be a shooter? Will it be an RTS, first-person shooter?
So it's a team-based game. The game is out. It's and it's been out for a little while. So it's a squad-based shooter, turn-based kind of thing.
Oh, okay. And then when the battle's over, you take to your soldiers and see if they're okay, and then depending on how well.
There's relationship builders, and then there's other things like that. It's a very cool system, and I kind of wish there was. It wasn't quite like this, but there was in Jagged Alliance 2. There was some stuff where it's if you had two mercenaries who were working together and they had been together for quite a while and they were really doing well together. If one of them suddenly died, the rest of them would get depressed. And stuff like that. But that was a very one-sided mechanic. This goes way
more in depth. Yeah.
It's way more in depth. It's way more filled out as far as a system goes. And that again, that's something that is cool and unique in the world of the heavy combat based kind of stuff. And it's I think that's again, it's this cool system that if it were to be incorporated into some larger stuff, we could actually see some pretty amazing ideas kind of out there. It's one of the things that I thought that maybe Mass Effect could have done a little bit more is have a little bit more conversations. And again, you make this stuff optional because not everybody wants you to not everybody wants the same thing, right? Like not everybody wants to have this kind of content, but it's there and it's available for people who do, and it can really add more depth to especially like these squad based stuff where it's like, it's always so interesting when other people play, especially Mass Effect. It's a great example because it's like I was really connected to some of the characters. And then when Ash played through it, he killed off the characters that I always kept. And so, like, even in the third game, I was like, so what do you think about when so-and-so did this? He's like, who's that? I'm like, one of the main characters in the game is like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And I'm like, wait, did you not save the big lizard guy? No, why would I do that? He was annoying me, so I just killed him. And it's like,
Ash is a racist towards lizard people.
What? I'm just sitting there like, how can you not? Wow, that is so bizarre. But yeah, stuff like that where it's like, if you add a more of an in-depth system, and this just goes to show that certain people are going to connect with this kind of a system way more than other people. Again, a lot of people will just kind of like, oh, that's a nifty system that I have no intention of interacting with, and then they wouldn't interact with it. Whereas like, other people will be like, this is the most amazing part about the game. I get to talk to these characters and have conversations, and we get to talk about our feelings and stuff like that. Again, some people have absolutely no interest in this whatsoever. Then other people are like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. This is something that's very, very important to me. So yeah, it works. It's interesting, and it'll be curious to kind of see, where they can take it from here. And then if it's a system that gets ported over into other places and other into other games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm actually talking about this game gave me an idea for a potential new video where I just talk about maybe like 10 games that do great representation and great role playing and use great mechanics in order to help you understand mental health issues. And I'd love to see if maybe I can look into this game and see how they make use of those mechanics and maybe see if it'd be something to include in that type of video. Kudos to the people behind Destiny Sword. I'm going to check it out maybe tomorrow. I do have to meet up with somebody after we're done the show, but yeah, I do want to check it out. All right, next. Tough. An article from NPR. Did they actually do something good?
That's a difficult question. That's a very difficult question. So the article is interesting. Game over. You died. Wasted. These are catchphrases that games use, but that doesn't mean that the game is being mean to you. It's telling you to get good. And there are a lot of games that helped develop me as a person, especially when I was younger, that if I hadn't taken the time to like get good, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing today. And that's just something that is very important as far as like video gaming and video gaming history goes, because it's so vitally important that you take losses and you learn how to deal with them. And not knowing how to take and deal with losses is obviously not fun and doesn't really help you in a lot of ways. But yeah, and it's games like Elden Ring, and the concept of you can't save everything, you can't collect everything, you can't do everything in every single game in one run. That's a good thing, because that's essentially life in a in a small experience. It's like you literally can't do everything. You literally can't get everything, and you have to be okay with loss. And teaching you that in a video game is something that turns out is actually very, very important for human development. And this article kind of briefly touches on it and goes into it about it's an essential part of those games, and teaching you how to deal with that, and that's a really important thing in the video games themselves.
Okay. Well, I mean, going back to sort of what we were just talking about with the last show episode, not only can video games teach you about mental health, they could show you, different ways to surmount it. And the From Software games, I think, are king at that, because for myself, I can sort of speak to my experience with those games and how they helped change my attitude and my approach to difficulty. When I first played Bloodborne, that was my first From Software game. People who don't know, Bloodborne is a part of the umbrella of Soulsborne games. So Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, and my first one was Bloodborne. I hated the game. The first couple 2 to 3 hours I played it. I actually told my friend Eliza, she does the art for my channel, that I hated the game because of how ridiculously difficult it was. And she got mad at me because she knew that I wasn't giving a fair shake to her game, which it's actually her favorite game, if I'm not mistaken. She got upset with me a little bit because of how militant I was against it. But then she sort of told me the right way that I'm supposed to approach it, not sort of trying to force my will upon something that I want to be a certain way, but sort of accepting it and trying to work within the boundaries it sets for me. And when I did that, I found Bloodborne opened itself up a whole lot more to me, and now it's one of my favorite games. Not only Bloodborne, but all the Dark Souls games for the most part. Although I will say, Dark Souls 3 is BS. It's way too hard. As I'm saying all this positive stuff about trying to overcome adversity, no, Dark Souls 3 can go eat a... I can't say it.
Sometimes it's just not meant for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the first half of Dark Souls 3 is actually pretty good and pretty reasonable. It's just when you get into the second half, when you're facing the goddamn Nameless King and the Soul of Cinder with his 3 goddamn phases. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Some people they know, and they've dealt with, and they've learned and grown up on these games, but there was one.
Oh, here we go.
That in the past that people whisper and talk about in hushed tones. It was one of the most insane games, and I think the completion rate on it probably is less than a single fraction of a % of people who've ever honestly actually tried it. And that would be Avoid the Noid.
What, like the Noid, the red guy with the ears?
Yeah, the little, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So you play as a pizza delivery guy who's trying to deliver a pizza, and he has to do this whilst trying to avoid hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of noids with rocket launchers and all this stuff. And you have no weapons. You have like a dash, a jump, a roll, and that's about it. And you have to deliver the pizza and scale 100 floors. And then when you get to the final floor, there's a password request, and you have no idea what the password is. Apparently, it was like hidden in clues throughout the last 100 levels that you just went through. Yeah. No internet back in those days. That you just got this game and you were told figure it out, and most people lost their mind on it. Seth MacFarlane actually put it in an episode of Family Guy. Most everybody's like, what is this? What is this thing all about? I don't understand.
I gotta look this up. When you're introducing the next show, I gotta look up what the hell you're talking about, because this sounds ridiculous. Yeah.
It's like Bane being born in the darkness. It's like you thought Dark Souls was hard. I will tell you of the true darkness. That kind of stuff.
That was actually a pretty spot on Bane impression, dude. That was really good. Honestly, one of the better ones I've heard. All you need to do is cover your mouth and it's perfect. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm looking at this. What, MS-DOS? Okay, I'll watch just a little bit.
Old MS-DOS game from way back in time. But
oh my god, this looks so bootleg. You're looking at the dodges. Are you kidding me? Oh, yep. Yeah. Okay, I could see what you're talking about. Are you kidding me? And there's 100 floors of this. I'm good. All right, next story. Takaya Amura, the guy behind F-Zero and Star Fox, what game is he creating? Switch text adventure?
Yeah, so he's making a new text adventure game for the Switch. This is one of the old OGs over at Nintendo, and he left to create his own thing. And this will be available in French for some odd reason first. But it's developed by the Japanese studio Happy Meal, and it's coming out in 2023. But yeah, it's an old fashioned, basically like text adventure game with some visual elements to it. But it's based off of his manga that he's just created, and it's a very interesting thing, and it's interesting to see what's happening at and to especially to a lot of the old timers that were at Nintendo, because a lot of them are moving on and a lot of them are doing passion projects now.
Yeah,
and that's very, very interesting. The fact that is, going on and things are happening in that and moving in that direction.
yeah.
So yeah, just a short, small story, because like I was hoping that I'm hoping that maybe some of our listeners know him a little bit more for what he's done. Like, I mean, he was involved in some of the really like big games of our childhood, so that's interesting.
Well, I gotta be honest, man. Like, as far as F-Zero and Star Fox goes, my only exposure to those games really is by playing Captain Falcon and playing as Fox and Falco in Super Smash Brothers. I never played any of the Star Fox games, nor did I play the apparently crappy one on the GameCube, and I never played F-Zero either. See, I didn't. I did own a GameCube. I never owned an N64, which I know was the platform that the good F-Zero and Star Fox games were on. And even when I had the GameCube, I didn't really own that many games for it. But, like, as a gamer like you, I understand the importance that F-Zero and Star Fox had on the world of gaming and on the Nintendo brand. And if he worked on those, like anybody who worked on those projects are automatic legends, and thus it makes anything that they work on past that something worth at least checking out. So, Omega 6, text-based game. Not sure why, like you said, why it's happening in French first. Maybe they have a lot of people that play F-Zero and Star Fox in that part of the world. Well, I don't know. We'll see. And then finally, what about... So, we did talk about this a couple weeks ago, about James Gunn making connected games across... Okay, well, you introduced that. I actually have some thoughts on this, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't think... I'm trying to remember. Forgive me if I got this wrong, because we did talk about this a couple weeks ago, and I was under the impression that it was just a general, like, kind of wish thing, where basically Warner Bros. Was like, hey, we're doing this. And it was just a general like announcement of this is something that they want to generally pursue. They had no current plans or anything in the works for it. They were just going to start shifting to it at some point in the future. But this is now James Gunn actually on Twitter going, yes, most definitely the DCU will be connected across film and TV and animation and video games. Going forward, the majority of their products in the majority of this stuff will be connected into a single universe. Now you go, now hold on a second. Ain't all those shows already in the same universe? I mean, it is, after all, this thing we call the DCU. But no, what they mean is a single coherent connected universe that features not just the universe of DC and all that kind of stuff, but actually covers and actually includes all of their products taking place in the same thing. So the when you go to see Superman, same Superman in the video game is the same Superman in the TV show, is the same Superman in the movies, and is the same Superman in the games. Like, all that stuff is going to be all interconnected. Now that's what they're saying. Most of us know that that's kind of
that's
stupid
impossible
and very, very difficult to pull off. The amount of like the amount of work that you have to put into that is actually ridiculous. It's a ridiculous concept to try and shoot for, but it is something that is, that people like. And so we'll see how this rolls out, because this is this is something that we've said, I've said before, this is a crazy concept for anybody who creates this kind of media. Having a completely connected universe. It's one thing to do a series of movies like the Marvel Cinematic Verse did, and it's one thing to kind of keep a very strict like timeline, like this is Earth 102 or 05 or whatever. That's one thing to do that, but it's a completely different thing to just be like, yeah, hey, we're doing this all straightforward now. This is completely like we are going completely in the direction of this is all one thing, period, end of story. It's all interconnected, and everything that you're going to be getting from us in the near future, it's all basically just this.
Okay.
So yeah.
So yeah, this is very strange. So James Gunn, in case you guys don't know, he has directed a lot of films, a lot of TV, a lot of it which I like. He did obviously Guardians of the Galaxy, which everybody tends to like. He did the Suicide Squad, the new one, the good one, with Idris Elba, not the crappy one. He did... What else? He did Slither, which is probably one of the most underrated horror movies ever.
I remember Slither. Oh my goodness. David Fillion. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Elizabeth Banks, young Elizabeth Banks. Yeah. He's done a lot of really good stuff. He has a wonderful sense of humor. And I look forward to everything that he puts out. And I'm kind of surprised that if he's sort of heading the creative direction of the DC universe, expanded universe going ahead, that he would tackle something like this, because as he who has worked with Kevin Feige, the guy who put together the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the films and the TV shows, he should know more than anybody else just how impossible it is to create something with interconnected storylines. For him to not only do that with movies and TV shows, but animated TV shows and upcoming video games, wouldn't that really seriously hamper your creativity? Trying to make sure that everything fits within the same canonical space. I obviously wouldn't have a problem playing a Superman game where you get to play as Henry Cavill. But let's say there's like Man of Steel 2 and Man of Steel 3, and then you have a Man of Steel video game that takes place between Man of Steel 2 and 3 and has like some sort of side story that happens in between them. Doesn't that lessen the chances of the story in that game being of any serious consequence? Because there's stuff happening between the two movies, and then it doesn't really matter because you know that Superman's going to live and there's not going to be any serious drama. But then extend that to all the other DCU characters. And then also there's the question of like, well, we know there's a Wonder Woman game that's coming out. Is that going to be affected? I don't think it will be. I guess it's more of a minor problem, but
it depends on like when they officially kick this off, right?
Yeah, I think they're waiting. There's rumors that this Flash movie that's coming up is going to sort of reset the universe to try and erase the mistakes. And even though they've had some successes, like the first Wonder Woman movie was good, Shazam was good. I like the first Man of Steel, and a couple other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, they're looking to reset this, and I suppose that will be sort of the flashpoint, no pun intended, for the rest of the universe moving forward. I hope that this is more just of a PR thing. I think James Gunn is too smart a guy to realize that, for him to go and do what he's suggesting, I don't think that sounds like something he would actually do. I mean, if they pulled it off, it would be the most genius branding move in the history of popular entertainment, but I think it's just too impossible a task. So, any extra thoughts on that side?
No, well, so I think you're right. It's going to be very difficult because it is. The concept of doing this is something that lots of people are going to try, and it's going to be a big trap because the Marvel universe got so lucky with it and had such great stuff with it. But is it going to work? Are they going to be able to successfully pull that off? Ooh, that's a good question. And I hope that they do it right. But yeah, we don't like. I'm not going to be holding my breath that this is going to come off the way that they think they is. Because one of the things is like, well, it really depends on how they do it. They have such a large cast of characters that they could do this, and it could make sense, but exactly how? It's like I'm sitting here, I'm going.
We don't even have a good Superman game yet. Why don't you focus on giving us that first before you worry about the the whole business of trying to put together a connected universe? Yeah, like aside from the Batman Arkham games, has there been a good DC related game? Like I can't. So what characters are there? Like Gotham Knights sucked. That
was, I think that mostly was bugs and associated problems. Although I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like you say that, but
Green Lantern, Flash. I mean, I guess the closest
for me, it's like their video game and their animation worlds. It's like those are two very different mediums. Like you can have the stuff that you have available to you, the options that you have available to you in one of the games is in one of the mediums, in animation, the stories that you can do, the stuff that you can do there, it's completely different than what you do in the movies. So again, it really does depend because how realistic based are they going? It's a lot of like hums and haws, right? Like it's very much like, ooh, I don't know. We're gonna see about this. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah. And
well,
don't hold your breath because I think this is a little bit on the ridiculous side. But if somebody's got a good plan for it and they manage to pull it off, I mean, that's just going to be better, like for everybody.
I will say this though, like the current plan that they've been having for DC hasn't been the greatest. Like,
no.
Yeah. So
I mean, they might as well try something crazy like this and then hope that it works.
Yeah. So, and given James Gunn's successes, not just with directing and producing, he does seem well equipped to handle the task. But whether or not it pays off, we'll have to see in a few years. All right. I said this would be a short show. I think this might be the shortest show we've ever done, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Thank you so much.
After Thanksgiving, there is, of course, we're going to be covering the Game Awards coming up very, very shortly.
Yeah.
We're going to be covering a whole bunch of new multiplayer games that are coming out. We got a bunch of them coming out right away. And yeah, we're really excited about this.
Callisto Protocol comes in next week. That's going to be pretty huge. I'm going to be playing that. But as far as game coverage goes, Cy will probably be doing that on the main channel. I'll be doing my main thing over on my channel. But yeah, you plug yours first, Cy, and then I'll plug mine.
Yeah, just on the main channel, the Triple S League.
Okay, cool. There's a link to that in the description box, and there's a link to my main channel in the description box below as well, where
YouTube's got this handy little feature. You click on channels. If you click on channels, you'll find on our page. You click on channels for the Triple S League. You'll get this channel. You get the music channels that we have. The AI ones. I think there's yours on there, and a bunch of other stuff there too.
Yeah, lots of goodies.
Some of our other friends and stuff like that. So,
all right, I'm gonna go play games. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
See ya.